everyone to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where I've just got to get my camera organized the way I want to. Where we're gonna play some Inkulinati, and I have a slightly different idea for what to do for this stream, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Right now, let's get the game started. And yeah, it's on. Ah, yes. A viewer on my language chat redeemed channel points reward to put the game in Polish, so I had to switch that back. Continue journey. How's everybody doing tonight? Okay. Oh, sweet little goose, let me feed you. Hello, Mask, how you doing? Impudent scoundrel, I was not asleep. Are you trying to insult me? You'll regret that soon enough. Godfrey sounds like fucking Caleb Maupin.
Orale!
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 Okay. And we'll wake them all up. This is like my least favorite configuration, because they can just rain arrows down on you. It's an absolute pain in the ass to win. First you have to get through this fucking door. Alright, there we go. Let's see, can we actually hit anything that matters? Actually, maybe this is the way to go. Maybe keep ours up. Well, ours isn't... Mine is not protecting me from anything. Because they can just shoot from down here. From up here. So... maybe that's actually pointless. Just make sure... what did I set my stream info on? Damn, donkeys going around motivating people? Okay, we can get rid of this door and then I can actually do something. And there we are. Hola, Phoenix. ¿Cómo estás? This week, I posted possibly the absolute shitpostiest video I have ever created on YouTube, and it immediately became probably the best performing video of mine of all time. I decided to do Steamed Hams, but it's a North Korean short film. Eating hippies, that's kind of interesting thought, because, see, I was thinking of doing things a little differently on this stream. I'd done this once before on a stream, and people seemed to like it. I thought it went pretty well. But, so I was thinking of roasting some liberal propaganda that's in print format. Okay. You may remember that there was a study that came out of Princeton a few years ago, pointing out that essentially ordinary working class people in the US have basically fuck all influence over public policy. Well, I've never heard of them, but interesting. Well, so Vox wrote an article destroying the Princeton study with facts and logic. And I was thinking of looking at that particular little piece of liberal propaganda from the best-selling sedative of American liberalism, and kicking the tires on it. Other than that, I've also got Vush responding to the State of the Union, which promises to be like, I mean, that's a filet mignon of bullshit. Admit it. I actually have not watched a State of the Union live since George W. Bush was president, because they were just so, there was just so much bullshit. I really couldn't manage to get through it without wanting to throw shit at the TV. Okay, let's have some healing. Well, it's the only thing they know. It's liberalism. It's liberalism with a little bit of, like, fucking spicy reactionary bullshit mixed in. They're basically like the fucking millennial version of Bill Maher. Except that they don't know how to actually, like, Bill Maher knows how to, at least theoretically, tell a joke. He knows how they're supposed to be structured. Whereas they lack this talent. The two go together nicely, really, internet drama and electoralism, because in both cases, it's just, It's all about the personalities of people and absolutely nothing to do with what they do and what they actually stand for when... Oh, is he? I did not realize. I knew he seemed quite young. The brand new dingleberry to the gruff, experienced hemorrhoid that is Vosh. Also, I don't know if you heard anything about this. Maybe I was just late to hear about it because I was streaming in the other channel for most of the afternoon today. But it seems Nazis are planning on having what they're calling a Day of Hate against Jews tomorrow, Saturday. Not clear exactly what they're planning other than the usual, and it'll most likely only be a couple of places where they're actually able to get more than token numbers together, but probably a good idea to keep an eye out. Even going to their local town halls would at least be something, but yeah, but then they would be surrounded with people who probably know more about this shit than they do. And I don't mean, like, the politicians even, I just mean the people in the gallery. Well, yeah, exactly. They want us to reach out, because apparently it is, of course, the left's failure to appeal to reactionaries that is why there are reactionaries. There's no material conditions or any other factors in play. Okay, is there anything I can actually do with my booping technique? Yeah, I mean, that's where I am. The only thing that ever really works is to ensure that they can't actually, that they just don't have any place where they can get together and organize undisturbed. The minute they find some place where they can just safely get together and nobody fucks with them, that's just the end. Because they're going to just all show up there. There'll be more of them each time. Okay. This is why this is such a pain in the ass structure to work with. Because I have to actually be able to get the tiny Inkulinati on the other side in order to win this. And in order to do that, I actually have to get somebody up on this level. Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, this whole debating fascist thing is just another spin on platforming them. And the thing is, even when you win by any, like, objective standard, you completely wipe the floor with them, that's not what their fan base sees. Their fan base sees that they got to put their shit out there undisturbed, and a whole lot of people who also were already inclined to believe in it feel emboldened in doing so. Ah, shit. Yeah. Okay, can I finally... Okay. That's who I really need to be getting here, first of all. Is that Archer can get me from any direction. Yeah, exactly. Their audience has a whole different definition of success. And it doesn't really involve being right about these things. They don't really give too much of a shit about being right about them. As far as they're concerned, they actually already are right. Yeah, I mean, you just look at Vosh's fucking chat, and you'll find plenty of just really dodgy, fashy shit going on. That he never seems to show any interest in doing anything to stop it. He never seems to rein that in. Okay, let's have some healing. I can't do any healing, that's annoying. Yeah, and of course their definition of what the left is completely meaningless. I mean, we saw that, just, last week when the whole thing, where they had the whole thing about, well, you know, he was responding to ThoughtSlime, and ThoughtSlime said, well, there's the reason you don't try to accommodate, like, reactionary white guys in the left is the same reason you also aren't trying to appeal to billionaires. You don't want their money because their money comes with strings that mean that you can't stand for what you stand for. And Vosh is like, no, that's not true. I'd take billionaire money. And it's because, I mean, he's like, he's just the land before class analysis. Yeah, exactly. They don't have any concept of victory beyond, like, winning fucking elections and shit. They are just completely without a clue on that. Of course they are. I mean, they live for that kind of bullshit. They live to have grudges against people whose takes are actually halfway decent. God, this is a hard one. And this is on easy mode still. I have beaten this this level before, but it is hard. Yeah. I mean, I don't think he probably much likes people doing any kind of actions in the first place, because, after all, he doesn't know what those things even are. And it just makes him look bad that there are people who actually do. his grift only works amongst people who are completely clueless and have never actually seen what the real deal looks like, don't even know what the real deal is supposed to sound like. Okay, can I boop this archer? Yes, okay, that's excellent. Archer has been booped. Let's wake those two up. Yeah, it's ego, it's popularity, it's money. It's just a grift. I'm gonna say, I mean, I don't mind money myself. I'd like to survive capitalism too. But at least, I mean, I try to stand for something in the meantime. Oh, thank you. That actually helps me out a bit. Okay, got my ass kicked. But I still brew the best ale of all. Okay, one more go. Clearly I need to bring a new team to this. Yeah, I mean, when I try... I need to get better about that. That's something that I don't do as well as I really ought to on here. If I hear about something, I want to let people know about it. I think it is important. No, not the triangulist. Yeah, there we go. This fucking structure. Yeah, I mean, that's what I try to do that as well. When I can donate, I definitely like to do that. I mean, enough people have donated to mine over the years. When I've needed them. Speaking of fundraisers, the crowdfunded translation project is making some really good progress. I'm nearly halfway to fully funding the translation of Chapter 1, so I've already begun work on actually translating Chapter 1. I am trying to raise the rest of it, which is another, 920 something. There. These clouds keep refreshing your health. So it's good. In this level, I found, like, the main way I managed to win is when those are available. To stick my tiny Inkulinati, my little avatar character there, on them. Hell, I can't really do anything at this point. So what does everybody think? Shall we stick with the usual format and roast these chudlords in video form, or are you interested in that Vox piece? There we are.
What is it?
Always sounds to me like the axe-wielding devil is saying, Orale.
Hello.
Maybe we can fit both in. We'll see. So I have definitely... I've been wanting to do some kind of a dissection of this Vox thing for a while now. Ah, there we go. Okay, let's see. Okay. Another axe wielder. Orale. It just keeps walking back and forth. Throat's dry. I finally come up with a term for like faux Marxist turfs. I finally came up with it. I'm amazed that it took me so long to think of it, but I'm really quite pleased with it. They are officially known now as the common turf. Sophie from Mars sort of reminded me that I wanted to do this video. She did a stream the other day where she was just looking through a really just impressively bogus article in the New Statesman about how supposedly the right is losing, although they really do a good... They're really putting a brave face on defeat, I have to say. And it's like, yeah, actually... looking at printed liberal propaganda and just, you know, doing a snarky close reading of that seems like a worthwhile thing to do. Okay. Let's have another go at that archer. Okay, got our health back. Okay, that's the archer sorted. Can begin to move upward now, finally. This is a remarkably positional sort of game. Very much a matter of figuring out the exact right place to put all of your pieces. Did he just say L'chaim? Okay, we can finally strike out at the king. Fucking donkeys. Damn. That's not fair. There's no apocalypse on his end. He has, like, basically unlimited time. There we go.
Bloody!
Okay. Okay, I think I'm about to lose. Oh no, I've still got a chance here. Nope. Okay, that's my ass kicked. As I said, this is a very hard structure to work with. So... Okay, that concludes that part of the evening. Now... Save and quit. Exit, yes. Full boot. Let me adjust this so we're all seeing everything. Okay. So, ad block time. Remember that study saying America is an oligarchy? 3 rebuttals say it's wrong. By Dylan Matthews. Now, first thing I like to do when I see an author. Okay. Dylan Matthews has, since 2018, served as a senior correspondent and head writer for Future Perfect. He's written about everything from furries to foreign aid. He's also written for the Washington Post. What else is he? The big problem with any debt ceiling fit. Okay, so he's pushing the bullshit line about the debt ceiling. And the thing to know about the debt ceiling, incidentally, is that it's not a real crisis. Because the US legally cannot default on existing debt, and that's all the debt ceiling is to do with. Section 4 of the 14th Amendment makes it unconstitutional for the US to default. So that's just not a thing. And the Democrats could call their bluff in 5 seconds if they wanted to. But they don't want to, because it suits them to be fighting to have this fake crisis as an excuse to... suits them to have this sort of fake-ass debt ceiling pseudo-crisis as an excuse to enact some kind of right-wing horror show policies in the spirit of compromise. In the spirit of getting things done. Okay, so that's Dylan Matthews. So, in 2014, a slew of headlines. Actually, I liked what I did the last time, when I was doing the Matt Taibbi one, and I read it like Bela Lugosi as Dracula, when I was quoting, so I think I'm gonna do that. In 2014, a slew of headlines seemed to confirm what many had long suspected, that the rich were actually the ones in control and the rest of us chumps were just along for the ride. Study: U.S. is an oligarchy, not a democracy. Princeton study: U.S. no longer an actual democracy. which is all. I agree that you can refute that one by just the word no longer is just not doesn't belong there. Study, you have near zero impact on U.S. policy. Study, politicians listen to rich people, not you, and rich people rule. So Dylan has decided to show that the ruling class doesn't actually have any power, because I mean this is the role of Vox. Vox is there to convince when liberals see some facts that immediately call into question whether the process that they worship actually is of any use at all. Um, it's the job of Vox and other organs of liberal propaganda to find some way to like reassure them. All these stories were about a study by political sciences. Martin Gillens of Princeton and Benjamin Page of Northwestern, modestly titled Testing Theories of American Politics, Elites, Interest Groups, and Average Citizens. Why do we need to say that it's modestly titled? I mean, that's not a grandiose title. That's like, I mean, who cares? Modestly titled. Their conclusion was explosive. Quote, economic elites and organized groups representing business interests have substantial independent impacts on U.S. government policy, while average citizens and mass-based interest groups have little or no independent influence. I mean, duh, obviously. All you have to do is spend time looking at not the executive summaries of the major polls or the media coverage, because that usually skips over the interesting bits. But if you go in, most of them you can find this for free. You look at the data tables, you look at the individual questions that people were asked, and you look at the demographic breakdown of how people answered. And what you find is that you have two completely different universes when it comes to discussions about policy in the US. You have the majority of the population who have one set of priorities, and then you have the actual priorities that are reflected by the actual fucking legislation and action and, government action that happens. And they're completely unrelated. I mean, there's not even a token acknowledgement most of the time of majority sentiment on all sorts of issues. Like, take healthcare, for example. We've had studies going back to the early 1990s regularly showing that the significant majority of the population want to get insurance companies off our backs. They would like to be able to just go to the fucking doctor when they need it, rather than worrying about how they're going to pay and getting permission from some fucking voicemail system which connects them to some person reading a customer service script whose entire job is to tell them no. I mean, that is just, the health insurance industry is one of the absolute least popular industries in the country. It's in the single digits, their approval rating, just above, the gun industry and big tobacco. Yeah, how is that reflected in public policy? Well, it isn't. I mean, it's just completely unacknowledged. Oh, wait a second. I need to update stream info. Just so people don't get annoyed when they come in here and they find I'm just chatting rather than Inkulinati. Okay. The paper soon went viral as proof that America is an oligarchy. The press's term, not theirs, where the views of the rich control what happens and the views of the middle class are ignored. The rich and the middle class. I see. Yeah, this is a bullshit tell right there. Because the middle class is a term that basically means nothing and everything in the US. You'll hear about middle class tax cuts. Democrats and Republicans both do this. They'll talk about they got a big middle class tax cut, and everybody is convinced that they're the ones that they mean. When they say that, and then you look at the definition of middle class, and it includes people who make more than 200 grand a year who are way up in the top 10% by income in the country. And then you'll see headlines like, it's not just poor people on food stamps, the middle class are on them too. And it's like, well, if you're fucking food insecure and that still counts as middle class, then your term means fucking nothing. The authors were even on The Daily Show. Not bad for the academics without so much of as a book to promote. There's only one problem. Ooh, there's a problem. We got a problem. Houston, we got a problem. Research published since then has raised serious questions about this paper. Both its finding and its analysis. This is, of course, how normal science works. Some academics put up a finding out there, and their peers pick it apart. Thank you for explaining what normal science is. That's to distinguish between my comments, things that this guy's quoting. It's Bela Lugosi from Dracula. That's to distinguish, when I'm reading what Dylan Matthews is saying, I'm using Bela Lugosi from Dracula. But the study has become a frequently invoked piece of evidence in debates about money and politics, and the public and political debate has not kept up with the scholarly one. And the latest scholarly critiques suggest that while the rich... Just for the hell of it, to take the piss out of it. Ordinary Americans still win a substantial share of the time, even when the affluent oppose them. America is an imperfect democracy, in other words, but it's hardly an oligarchy. Okay, so this is what we're going to be looking at. This is the claim that's being made here. Notice how fucking wiggly this already is. Ordinary Americans. Okay, while the rich certainly have more political influence than the middle class, ordinary Americans, whatever the hell that is, still, that's an even vaguer term than the middle class. A substantial share of the time, even when the affluent oppose them. So we got two groups of people. The middle class, or ordinary Americans, and the affluent. And supposedly, these studies are showing that sometimes, where it's only ordinary Americans on one side, and the affluent on the other, the ordinary Americans win. That sounds like bullshit. When the rich and middle class disagree, each wins about half the time. Have a good night, Mask. That's what this one supposedly says. Since its initial release, the Gillen's Page paper's findings have been targeted in 3 separate debunkings. And note the word here, because the idea, if it's a debunking, that means that it's bunk. You don't say that you don't say that there's a debunking of something that you're saying is actually valid. Cornell professor Peter Enns, recent Princeton PhD graduate Omar Bashir, and a team of 3 researchers, UT Austin grad student J. Alexander Branham, University of Michigan professor Stuart Soroka, and UT professor Christopher Vlezian, have all taken a look at Gillen's and Page's underlying data and found their analysis just doesn't hold up. Gillen's and Page used a database of 1,779 policy issues, which included data on the opinions of median-income Americans, the rich, business interests, and non-business interest groups like unions or the National Rifle. And how is the National Rifle Association a non-business interest group? That is completely back. That is the lobby of the gun industry. How is that a non-business interest group? To determine whose opinions correlated most closely with actual government policy. The researchers critiquing the paper found that middle-income Americans and rich Americans actually agree on an overwhelming majority of topics, example not provided. Out of the 1,779 bills in the Gillen's Page dataset, majorities of the rich and middle class agree on 1,594. Again, example not provided. There are 1,616 bills both groups oppose, and 978 bills both groups favor. That means the groups agree on 89% of bills. Which, like, what the fuck does that even mean? We're not, I mean, what do these bills deal with? What bills are these? And first of all, and apart from everything else, the idea is that supposedly the rich are all on one side on these things. If the rich were all on one side and never actually had any significant disagreements, we wouldn't actually need governments in capitalism. The whole reason we have governments in capitalism, a big part of it anyway, is that there are disagreements between capitalists. They disagree on a lot of things, and somebody has to mediate. So the idea that you can just say that the rich agree on one thing and the middle class, whatever the fuck they are, agree on another thing is just nonsense. Chances are, any one of those bills you find will have had quite a bit of financial backing from some segment of the ruling class. And just because people might oppose it in a poll doesn't necessarily mean they oppose it strongly. That doesn't mean they're going to actually mobilize their money to be against it. Hello, Haku. How are you? That leaves only 185 bills. See, and notice the other thing about this framing is the idea is that the only things that matter are the things that actually make it into the legislature. But the reality is, most of the time, the opinions of, like, about 60% of the population don't even make it into the form of a bill. They're not being introduced in the legislature. Was the, what was the video project about? What'd you do? Okay, so Bashir and Branham Saruk of Lezian found that on these 185 bills, subjects not listed, the rich got their preferred outcome 53% of the time, and the middle class got what they wanted 47% of the time. The difference between the two is not statistically significant, and there are some funny examples in the list of middle-class victories. Again, I mean, we haven't had a fucking example yet. What makes the examples funny? Are they funny because they don't sound like they actually are middle-class victories? Whatever. That sounds like an interesting video. For instance, the middle class got what they wanted on public financing of elections. In all three 1990 surveys included in the Gillen's data, they opposed it while the rich favor it. Except the rich, I mean, see, that's just nonsense. The rich don't, it's not that simple. There are rich people on both sides of these things. And the thing about public financing, and this whole use of the term middle class already renders all this stuff meaningless. So it's hard to say definitively based on this data, and it's even harder to say definitively based on this article, which has given us a grand total of one fucking example about what it's talking about, and uses the vaguest weasel words imaginable. So it's hard to say definitively based on this data that the rich are getting what they want more than the middle class. When you've cherry-picked it this way, especially when you were not talking about the issues that this is about, where we're just acting like you can just look at a series of bills and say, oh, the middle class like this one, oh, the rich like this. None of this works that way, for fuck's sake. Well, just a pro tip there. There are universities outside of the country, like legit, very reputable universities, with no tuition, that will allow for students who are abroad to study online. That is an option that exists if you want to go, if you ever decide you want to do that, and the cost is prohibitive. Random Soroko inflation. Also look at what specific issues spur disagreement. Do they fall down on ideological lines? Sort of, but not dramatically so. The authors find that the middle class got 26 liberal policy wins. What the... What the... Could you give us some fucking examples? Either a bill they supported passing, or one they opposed getting blocked. Well, what the hell is a liberal policy win? And what is a conservative win and what is an ideologically neutral? The rich got 28 liberal wins, 28... This is fucking meaningless. The rich's wins are slightly more conservative on average, but not hugely so. Yeah, because you're looking at this through the lens of what actually makes it into the legislature, and it doesn't... If the working class wants something and the rich are dead set against it, like, for example, universal public healthcare free at the point of use is a thing that overwhelmingly the majority of the population is for it, and the political class in the US is almost unanimously against it. It's only recently that one or two people have even started to come out in favor of it, even quietly. Yeah, I thought it was, but I wanted to just throw that out there in case at some point it is something you consider. Definitely there are some options there. But, I mean, I understand about the health issue, the fatigue. That basically, nothing in academia is really set up to accommodate people who are dealing with those sorts of issues at all. Okay, says, Dylan's strawman, but maybe those conservative wins for the rich were all on issues that mattered most to the rich. Maybe the middle class wins occasionally on social issues, but the rich succeed in preventing redistribution and other economic policies they don't like. So this is his strawman, and this isn't maybe, actually. I mean, the rich are succeeding in preventing economic policies they don't like. It's why we don't have a fucking social safety net worthy of the name. It's why we don't have a fucking national healthcare system where we can just go to the doctor when we need to. It's why our fucking universities are funded through the novel vehicle of making teenagers take on 5-figure debt loads that everybody knows they can't pay off. So yeah, I think we can say, oh, but not really, says Dylan. The research found the richest win rate for economic issues where there's disagreement. That's disagreement between the rich and the constructed middle class. Yeah, I mean, this is so meaningless. They're not using a single example. Compared with 51.1% for social issues, definition not provided. There's a difference, but not a robust one. And this is all, like, you can't... So far, we've had exactly one example of an issue. Exactly one fucking example. They also looked at the views of the poor. Those at the 10th percentile of the income scale. What the hell? The 10th? The poor is way more than that in the US. I mean, if you go by actual cost of living, roughly half the population is below it. The US official poverty line is an absolute joke. But okay, so they've decided that's the poor. The people, if you're in the 10th percentile of the income scale in this, okay, let me just look that up. 10th percentile by income US. What is that? How much is that amount? Bottom 10th. Bottom 10th percentile, not top. Okay, so the bottom percentile median average. So the bottom percentile was making 15 grand a year, grossing 15 grand. You can be making twice that and you're still not making ends meet in this country. I mean, the 10th percentile, that is the poorest of the poor in this country. Because the 10th percentile also includes the people whose income for the year in question was nil. Here, too, there's lots of agreement. The poor, middle class, and rich agree on 80.2% of policies, which is a totally meaningful figure when you don't actually have any specification of what the fucking policies are we're talking about. But here they find more evidence for differences in income-based representation. Bills supported by just the rich but not the poor or middle class pass 38.5% of the time. We're still talking about, it's all about bills. Bashir's paper prods at the Gillen's data even more and finds a number of holes. Bashir concludes that the strong support from the middle class is about as good predictor as a policy being adopted as strong support from the rich. Yes, because the middle class is a meaningless, empty signifier that means that people just define however the fuck they want. The middle class, as it is used in the US, includes a lot of the rich. In the original dataset, Bashir writes, change is enacted 47% of the time that median income Americans favor it at a rate of 80% or more. Yet change is enacted 52% of the time that elites favor it at that rate. This is so fucking meaningless. Bashir also notes that the Gillens and Page model explains very little. Well, I mean, yeah, but that's not exactly a criticism that they can be. Oh, well, I mean, it's basically, it's Nazbols and literal Nazis. There's actually a video on this. So, this is just, okay, so the short version of this article, the TLDR is, this is just a bad article. Dylan, whatever the fuck, Dylan Matthews at Vox.com, he made a really bad article. This is from May 2016. Because he doesn't actually, I mean, it's just so dishonest. Because if the specific issues actually, made a difference and really lined up with this argument that they're trying to make, that actually the rich don't have any kind of outsized influence on policy, we'd be hearing all about the specific issues. Instead, we get nothing. We get a complete nothing issue that nobody's talked about. I mean, this is written in 2016, and it's probably been a decade or more since anyone had talked about it even then. So, with that, actually, I have a video on the so-called anti-war protest, and I think we're gonna switch over and look at that now. Yeah, well, I mean, in publications like Vox, class politics is just non-existent. I mean, they exist to avoid people having any awareness of what class politics even means. Okay. So here we go. Let me just make sure. Audioausgabeaufnahme.
Now is the ideal time to do what the Communist Party
God, he is so horny for FDR.
Understood their job was back in 1948 to fight for an anti-monopoly government, an anti-war government. Now is the ideal time to be doing that.
Well, okay, and what makes this the ideal time? What makes this, 1948 was early enough that you can excuse people for still thinking that electoral politics was a meaningful way to seek for working class victories. I mean, 1948, that's before Allende, that's before all the other examples of that simply not fucking working. But it's 2023 now, Caleb. There's a bit of water under the bridge.
However, most socialists, most leftists in America are not doing that.
What do you mean? Are not doing the failed strategy of the Communist Party USA from 1948?
Instead, they are doing the opposite. They are fighting for the big monopolies.
Okay, example, please.
Against the anti-monopoly forces. They are fighting for the FBI against the forces challenging the FBI. They're
Who the hell is fighting for the FBI?
fighting for the Ukrainian Nazis against the forces that want to cut off the funds.
Which also bullshit. I mean, there's plenty of people who have absolutely hold the likes of Caleb Muppet in the lowest possible regard, and also do not think that the U.S. should be just indefinitely prolonging a devastating war on Ukraine's soil. That there's just absolutely no way that it ends well for Ukraine, and there are all sorts of wonderful ways that it could end badly for the entire world. I mean, he tries to declare a monopoly on these things. He's not even...
They are fighting for the lockdowns and the vaccine mandates.
The good things. Yes, we want to not have COVID. Just a few months ago, Caleb on a video we watched here on this stream, Caleb was on about how quite correctly, how the U.S. is absolutely a disaster in terms of COVID, because the U.S. is the world's COVID capital. 5% of the population, 23% of the cases and deaths. I mean, it's absolutely disastrous, and he was praising China's policies, which, whatever else one might say about them, they had managed in a country with a huge population density to keep cases down to an absolute minimum and fatalities to some of the lowest in the world, certainly of a country that size. Yeah, I know. I think what's happening here, Kenkeros, is that Caleb has changed his position on COVID now that China has basically just decided to fuck it up.
And Big Pharma against the people that are opposing them. They are...
Well, the thing is, okay, first of all, lockdowns and Big Pharma is just a false alliance. In their first quarter earnings call, I believe it was for this year, Pfizer's top executives were talking about how they were actually glad that the non-pharmaceutical public health interventions were going away, because it was increasing the number of cases of COVID, and it was increasing the demand for their patented drug Paxlovid. The fucking pharmaceuticals industries love that nobody is wearing masks, that nobody is, working, well, the CDC are working from home, mostly. The CDC are working from home because it's not safe. Fucking Walensky, etc. are working
for the low-wage police state against the working people who don't want to be degrown.
Well, here we've already... Yeah, exactly. Fucking Davos. They took every precaution in the book. At the same time as, it's a gathering of the people who have been telling us not to bother. Now, some woman had a wonderful little short looking at the precautions they were taking on TikTok, and her summary of it was, "You got fucking played." And yeah. And this dickhead, see, there are two things that have actually come out, well, three things that have come out of him being exposed as an abuser by the CPI. One is his production values have gone up. 2, he swears more. And 3, he's becoming more and more fashy. He used to be a little bit more careful about some of this stuff. He just gets more reactionary every time I look at him.
They are fighting for tech censorship and for Silicon Valley against the American people.
Yeah, well, look at these gestures. He is, at this point, this is, I mean, he didn't used to do this. His whole style has actually changed in this regard. He used to have to work himself up into this kind of lather. But these are like the gestures when you watch fucking Hitler speaking. This is like how he would speak. He like practice his shit in a mirror. I mean, he's not given one single fact. It's just him shouting, like, yeah, I mean, he's got us. We communists, we just love tech censorship. Never mind that actually the reality is that censorship by these tech companies mostly affects the left, and somehow Caleb Maupin is never to be heard when it affects the left. But when fascists are reluctantly shut down for violating TOS, yeah, he doesn't wear suits anymore, that's true. For violating TOS, then suddenly he fucking runs the defense. He's the cavalry then.
Don't want to be silenced. And this is a problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd say the problem is that you've run out of false dichotomies.
And the lead up to the vitally important demonstration coming up on February 19th makes this so abundantly clear. I want to...
That demonstration, it's worth noting, includes literal fucking neo-Nazis. There's a great thing, let me drop the link. Yeah. And it's going down, detailing I mean, we're talking about people who were at like, Unite the Right, the Charlottesville pogrom. These people are absolutely fucking dodgy, and yeah, it is beyond mask off that he is, that he's defending this.
Thank the great Tyler McConnell for discovering this.
Who the hell's Tyler McConnell?
Tyler McConnell discovered how you can tell what side the Silicon Valley fascists are on. This is Tyler McConnell's great...
If they're fascists in Silicon Valley, why are you opposing them, Caleb?
This is his screenshot.
Okay, well, let's find out what he discovered.
Tyler McConnell decided to Google.
Wow, he Googled. Tyler McConnell fucking Googled. Wait, there's...
The Rage Against the War Machine demonstration. Try to type into Google, see what comes up. This is what comes up. There's a protest happening a week from tomorrow in Washington, D.C. And if you type in to Google what's happening, this is what you will find.
Okay, Rage Against the War Machine. Okay, so we have black leftists. Okay, the first one is Black Agenda Report, who, I mean, you would think that normally I would imagine that they, like a couple of years ago anyway, I would imagine Caleb Maupin would actually have been cool with a lot of their analysis, because they are actually quite, they're quite reliable on the anti-imperialism. I don't like everybody who writes for them, but they have some very good people. Glenn Ford was great. I really actually miss his work. And then right over here, the second thing is, we've got Jimmy Dore. So the top results, there's like Jimmy Dore spruiking this fucking demo. Is the number 2 result. So what the hell, what has he discovered? What's the censorship?
The first article that comes up is from Black Agenda Report.
Yeah, which points out that it is being organized by the fucking Libertarian Party.
Why the Rage Against the War Machine rally?
If you're a communist, and you find that you're spruiking a fucking demo called by the Libertarian Party, that is a moment for you to just kind of check in with yourself and see if maybe you fucked up somewhere along the line.
Valley is anti-war so white. Silicon Valley rigged the search engines.
The second article is a YouTube video, which gets a lot better SEO. Videos and pictures do way better than text. Incidentally, by Jimmy Dore endorsing the fucking demonstration. What are you talking about, Caleb?
To make sure that articles written by fake socialists, identity politics, woke jokers came up.
Okay, let me just see. I'm gonna pull up this article because I'm curious who wrote it. Who wrote this? Yeah. This is by Jacqueline Lookman. And... okay, let's see. She is actually very much... she is actually anti-war. If this were just about ending the war in Ukraine, that would be another thing entirely. She clearly would have been on the View. Okay, an African View on Ukraine, quoting President of the Socialist Party of Zambia. Biden could cancel your loan if he wasn't busy arming cops in Ukraine, is another article she wrote. She's clearly on the side that, this is very clearly the issue. This is clearly not about specifically. This isn't somebody who is against what this demonstration claims to stand for. This is somebody who clearly, just judging from most of what she's, what she's been steadily writing for a Black Agenda report. I'll link you to her author page. I'll drop that in chat too. Is somebody who would be totally on side with this, except it is fucking being organized by white supremacists.
This is not accidental. We know that they rig the algorithms. They rig the search engine results.
Is that what? So are you saying that the reason Jimmy Dore is the number 2 result on your search, which doesn't even have quotation marks in it, that it shouldn't be there, that it should be farther down? Look, the number 3 result there is the website, the official website of the protest. I've never heard of Jacqueline Lookman, but I'm looking at that, and I just, you look at those. What I do when I've never heard of an author is just look at what the rest of what they've written is, to get an idea of where they stand on things. And it's very clear that any legit rally against the U.S.'s policy of just doing everything possible to cause this war to drag on, she would clearly be for it. She's in, Chicago Peace Action. I saw something on there. Half of what she's talking about is how this shouldn't be happening. Hello, Frozen Rat. Welcome to the chat. Patriotic socialists are about as far from the real movement which abolishes the present state of things as I can imagine. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think you've hit it on the head, and a nice usage of that Marx quote, by the way. I like that a lot. Speaking of Marx and Marxism, let me just take a moment to tell you a little bit about my current crowdfunded translation project, which you can see more of here. See, I do crowdfunded translations of orphan text that ought to be translated, but nobody's putting up the money to do it. Okay, that didn't work. So what I do is I crowdfund the cost of translating the stuff. There was a typo. And then I translate it, and then I make it generally available. That's the idea. So right now, what I'm doing is the first full-length English translation of Alexandra Kollontais' 1909 work, Social Basis of the Female Question. I have already, and you'll find it on the Patreon, had fully funded and translated the first draft of the introduction. I am currently trying to fund the translation of the first chapter. I'm taking it chapter by chapter because it's a long book. I am currently roughly halfway through financing that. I've financed about $700 out of $1,624 to cover the cost of that translation. So, if you would like to see that translation happen, please consider dropping a tip on using the tip command or becoming a patron. And if you can't do that, I wouldn't want to put any pressure on anyone who is short of funds. I know all about being short of funds. It's been a difficult year for me as well. Then if you would just share the information, which you can find on that Patreon page, and just let people who might be interested in this project know that it's going on, I would really appreciate it. Because I've got really good momentum going with this thing. I really want to see it through. I really want to finish this whole translation, the whole English translation of Socjalnie Osnowy Żeńskiego Wопроsa, Social Basis of the Female Question by Kollontai. And it's just a matter of keeping the momentum up and getting the whole thing funded so that I can take the time away from my normal translation work to spend it on this.
Black Agenda Report has decided that everyone who goes to this rally is a big fat racist. Oh.
Well, yeah, just because it's organized by the fucking Libertarian Party and features a bunch of Nazis.
My God, they're racist.
Well, that is a bad thing, actually. Usually, like he's gone like fucking Crowder mode.
And it just so happens that the Silicon Valley fascists, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg,
the official fucking website of the protest is the number 3 result. Jimmy Dore endorsing the protest is the number 2 result. Is that part of the conspiracy of the Silicon Valley fascists too?
Agree with Black Agenda Report. And they have rigged the search engine to promote their woke condemnation of this rally.
Yeah, why is Elon Musk not on that list? To Caleb, that is a very, very intriguing question.
The screenshot's right there.
The screenshot shows that the
side the Silicon Valley tech monopolists are on.
Yeah, because the Jimmy Dore is only the number 2 result, and the official website's only the number 3 result. Nobody ever sees the number 3 result of a Google search.
We know what side they're on in Ukraine. We know.
I mean, look, Black Agenda Report is a longer standing and more established website than RageAgainstWar.com. Of course they've got better SEO, but they're not that far off, because look, again, 2 results down. The official website of the fucking protest.
We know what side they're on in Taiwan and in China. We know what side they're on the Korean Peninsula.
Oh, we do know what side they're on all those places because they've been writing about it for over a decade, and the only reason that they're pissed that they're publishing something against this protest is because it has Nazis, not because they disagree with the underlying idea that the U.S. shouldn't be trying to prolong this war indefinitely.
We know what side they're on the lockdowns. We know what
This didn't used to be a thing for him.
side they're on when it comes to the FBI versus the people and the
Yeah, let's find out. I'm sure that the Black Agenda report has had nothing but nice things to say about the fucking
America
FBI.
and their freedom. We know what side they're on when it comes to the Uhuru movement versus the FBI.
Really?
And now we know what side they're on. We know what side they're on when it comes to this important rally.
Oh, look, Kinky, who it looks like fucking Posey Parker, says they are not leftist, Caleb. That's a fake cloak. Because leftists wear cloaks, apparently. I'm not a real leftist. I don't have a cloak.
Repudiates this. Maybe they don't accept. They don't appreciate it. But they should look themselves in the mirror.
Yeah, I'm sure they totally don't appreciate being in the top 10 search results.
Sure. When the search engine results are being rigged to promote their denunciation of an anti-war protest, it should be obvious that this anti-war protest is a progressive, revolutionary anti-war protest. So
wait, okay, so there we go. That's how you understand. You know, I mean, Engels, I think it was, said you can't just put a minus where the ruling class puts a plus. But it's Caleb Maupin, he has a more sophisticated analysis. You see, when the ruling class algorithms make a protest the number 2 search result rather than the number 1 search result, that means they totally hate the fucking protest. Like, they can actually, I mean, Google can fucking censor the results entirely if they want. They do that. I mean, try to look up like fucking torrent sites and shit. You can't Google them in a lot of jurisdictions. If they wanted to just censor that, they wouldn't put it just as the number 3 and number 2 result on the very first search page. God, he's gonna give himself a heart attack over this bullshit. But, it is time for me to wrap up for tonight. We will come back to this tomorrow, maybe. But, yeah, so there we go. It turns out that the Black Agenda report, which has much better anti-imperialist cred than Caleb Maupin ever will have, and clearly would be on the same side as this protest if this protest weren't literally being organized by white supremacists, is a fake leftist. They're fake woke leftists. It's funny how they're woke, because you see, this is not the first time that Caleb has used being black as synonymous with woke. Like, there was a video where somebody had some company in their advertising had a picture of a black woman, and he said, see, that's just wokeness. It's like what's the wokeness? Well, I mean, he's just a really racist fuck. Okay, so it is time for me to wrap up, and I want to thank everybody who joined. I hope everybody had a good time. And I hope anyone who's interested in seeing Colin Thai's Social Basis of the Female Question finally translated in full length into English would, at the very least, share that, share the links that you can find at my Patreon around to let people know that this project is going on, because I really want to make this thing happen, and it's just a matter of keeping the fundraising momentum going so that I can keep working on it. Have a good night. See you tomorrow at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. Thank you to everybody for joining.